Ready. We're on.
Hi, I'm Tommy Holloman, and I am a 10th grader at Pathways Academy, and this is my portfolio today. My main interests are in math and science classes. I'm very good at analytics. I have character projects on this portfolio of math, English, science, and history, and my favorite classes would be probably math, and also I've taken a couple of other electives in the year which have been pretty interesting, like strength and conditioning and 3D modeling. So here's my homepage. This just tells a little bit of information about me, my full name, Thomas Quint Holloman, and my interests, contact information, and the resume that you need if you're a possible employer. I also have a couple of projects that I'd like to highlight. In history, so I did a couple projects on different eras. I did imperialism, the Jim Crow era, and the civil rights movement, which I'll be going over shortly. In science, I did the Atom Project, which we can actually see, which is in a short presentation. I did the atom francium, and I discussed the classification of general facts, common isotopes, and a couple of other interesting parts about the atom, such as the charges, electron configuration, and other statistics. That was a pretty interesting project, and we were trying to find uses of the atom and to see how they would relate to different character traits. It was an interesting project. And then in English, I had an essay which was about connecting the autobiography of Malcolm X, the book I read, to Macbeth, which we read in the class, and trying to connect them to a certain character trait, and the character trait that I chose was resilience. So I related the characters in Macbeth to Malcolm X himself and talked about how their resilience pushed them through to help achieve their goals. Other than that, in math class, I did an essay on Bernard Riemann, who's a mathematician who's famous for creating the Riemann zeta function, which is a very common problem in mathematics, which has to do with very many complicated things, and there's an essay that I did on that. And then there's an internship tab, but that's not done yet. However, I am going to be doing it, and in that internship, I'm going to be doing a special legal organization opportunity where I'm going to be working on a couple different projects at Aetna, which is an insurance company, and in a lot of different fields, and helping to organize and distribute files in a proper way. Besides this, I've taken some other interesting classes in the year, but those character projects are in progress. As well as in this, I have a 9th grade portfolio. I have my portfolio from 9th grade, which presented all my diversity projects from that year, and you can actually download it right here. So that's pretty much.
Okay. So tell us what you learned about character.
Okay. Let me just go to the home for that. So just for integrity purposes. With character is, people often portray character as something like a summation of someone's traits. And character, I think, is more than that, because it is a summation of someone's traits. It is a person's personality and what they do in their actions. Actions do define character, but character is also regulated to how someone changes. So in Pathways, we try to employ these themes so that we can help people to learn about them and to establish themselves and take a different viewpoint on the real world. And having character here is a good example of how we do this, because it's changing us to think differently about the world, just as diversity did in the last year that we did. So I learned that character is not just someone's traits, it's also how someone changes and how somebody acts. And especially, given the projects that I did, how somebody acts in the face of adversity.
Great. Tell us a little bit more about other projects that you are proud of, like your history projects.
Okay. In history, I did a couple different pages. One of the best ones that I did was one on the civil rights movement. This is a long page, and it has a lot of different essays and other things on that. But I worked on a project where I displayed a lot of different aspects of the civil rights movement, hardships that African Americans went through at the time, and what people did to try and create change during the movement. And really that was the driving force behind that unit, was how do people create change, and how do people ascertain power, and then how do people create change. and that was what I did in that movement. And I talk about civil rights and the different eras of it, and then I talk about a newer case of it, which is in like Obergefell versus Hodges, which was about gay marriage, which eventually got to be made a law. And I talked about that there. And in history, I also did a couple of other ones. I did the Jim Crow era and imperialism, where I talked about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo and the Gadsden Purchase, and then there was a couple of videos included on that, and then some various pictures of interesting figures along the way. So that one, those are a couple projects that I'm definitely proud of. Other than that, there's a couple of character projects for each class, and then a couple of projects that are in progress.
Great. Tell us about what you've learned from the ePortfolio process, or the other about the themes at Pathways, things like that.
This has actually been very interesting because I come from a small town, pretty far from here. So, and which the people are they're pretty similar in terms of what type of person, what background they are in my old town. So coming here to Pathways and learning about diversity like we did last year was a really interesting experience for me because it exposed me to a lot of different types of people and backgrounds and ethnicities and all that stuff that I had not been exposed to in the past. And it was something that really enriched me and helped me to learn. And in the ePortfolio process, creating all these pages and this different stuff, it's been very interesting to see how I can express myself through works that I've done. So I can present myself through the portfolio, and I can organize all my projects in a orderly fashion, and I can provide as much information as I could possibly want about myself through this thing. And it's actually been pretty cool to try and create that and express myself in that way.
Great. So why don't you do a closing?
Okay, so in conclusion, I'd say that over time at Pathways, I've learned a few things. I've learned about diversity and character. I've learned about how to properly build a portfolio and how to properly present yourself. And overall, I'd say I've really had a changed outlook on life, and I think that's really what character is about. So this portfolio, I hope, exemplifies that pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you.